Hi all, please welcome to the part 8 of this playlist. We are looking at AWS DevOps Professional Real Certification questions. In this part, we will look at questions linked with these three topics. Please hit the subscribe and the like button. It helps me a lot to understand the pulse of the audience. Now, it is important for us to focus on the concepts, so make sure that you grasp the concepts. Now, this question is on Cloud Trail. Before you delve into this question, please do not forget to refer parts 1 to 7 of this playlist for previous questions, that is questions 1 to 35. Now let's look at this question. Now it's simple. This is a question on cloud services and it has some optional components. So the first thing you want to remember is S3 is a mandatory component because all the logs get saved there. So this S3 is a mandatory component, not an optional one. That's why we would reject it. On the same lines, we would reject this one as S3 is a mandatory component and not an optional component. But first, let us look at Cloud Trail services. It helps you to track user activity and API usage. So it is very important when you are trying to troubleshoot and understand if some hack happened, what activities happened, who did that activity, and so on. These logs will be very useful. So we understand Cloud Trail services. Now let us try to understand KMS. See, encryption is not a must for the logs, but if people want to encrypt the logs, they can do that using KMS managed keys. That is important. That is why KMS is an optional component and not a mandatory component because not everyone would choose to encrypt the logs. Let us check CloudWatch now. See, this is an optional component. You can monitor Cloud Trail log files with watch logs. And when we do that, you can monitor the trail logs as well as you can be notified. When you talk about notifications, there comes SNS. You can configure SNS notifications for CloudTrail. This is a possibility, but this is not a mandatory option. This is optional. So you see, notifications are optional. So it seems C should be the right answer. I showed you KMS, CloudWatch, and SNS that these three are optional. But let us look at SES as well. This one, if you see this, SES is integrated with CloudTrail, and it doesn't seem to be an optional service. So if we talk about what is SES, it is a email service, inbound and outbound email service, and that is pretty much used extensively for APIs. So this would be my final answer. We will lock this and move forward. Now let's jump into this question. It is a bit of a long question. Please pause this video to read it carefully and come back. So you have an EC2 instance, you have an RDS database, and these two are used from a code pipeline, which is used when they are testing for fresh installations. And testing only happens once or more every week. For say whenever it happens, it takes 2 to 3 hours. Okay, so that means these two services need not be on. Please focus on this. These two services need not be on for the entire week. They will be on only when the testing happens. After that, they should not be on, otherwise you will spend extra money. These will be on and nobody will be using it. So the question is already saying, give me the most cost effective solution, most cost effective. So let's scan through the options. The first option says is that you convert the database RDS to Aurora. That is this database here, you convert it to Aurora. Okay, and then you use Lambda to start and stop EC2 instances before and after the test. Remember, you only need these instances while you are testing it. These two guys are needed only when you are testing it. When you are done, you do not need it. No need to keep them active. Okay, so that's why they are saying RDS, you convert it to Aurora so that Aurora can start and stop by its own. It is managed serverless application. And EC2, they will use Lambda to start and stop based on when the testing starts and stops. Okay, but how will you know when the testing starts and stops? You will have to put some sort of trigger, like a schedule. If you know that, okay, every Wednesdays and Fridays 2 p.m. my testing starts, but the question doesn't say so. So the problem with A is it is not telling you how this will get triggered, how Lambda function will get triggered. Will it be based on time, like a particular schedule it will follow, or will it be based on certain events? Since that information is missing, I would make put it as wrong. Okay, the other problem is we are asking for a most cost effective solution. And if you are converting RDS database to Amazon, somebody has to do that conversion and move the data. What if there are millions of records and you want to do that conversion? Then that is going to attract cost. You will need labor to do that. So that's why this is wrong. Let's move to option B. Option B is wrong. Again, it is just addressing the EC2 instance. When you put it in auto scaling group, you are only addressing this portion. Okay, what about this portion? Option B does not handle the database. That's why this is wrong. This is incomplete. You will have to give a solution which handles both EC2 instance as well as RDS database. You need to start and stop both. Now this one is saying that you put EC2 instance, you use spot instance. You know, spot instances is just like eBay. You bid and whoever bids higher gets that. Okay, but spot instances will not help you with automatically starting and stopping when the testing is required. You only need EC2 when the testing is happening. It will not help you with starting and stopping. There is no mention of that. So that's why this portion is wrong. Second is, it says RDS database with the RDS reserved instance. If you reserve an instance with reservations, there comes a commitment of 1 or 3-year term. You are looking to save cost or increase cost? We are looking to save cost. Option C will increase your cost. That's why this is wrong. And we are only left with D. This is the right answer. What will happen is, you know, CloudWatch events. See, the problem is we need to do this whenever the testing starts. You can put an event, CloudWatch event, which is linked to code pipeline. So whenever they see an activity in code pipeline, it will trigger the systems manager automation document, and this will, you know, systems manager. What is systems manager? This system manager will usually help with simplifying common maintenance, deployment, and remediation. So this can be used to start and stop both the EC2 and RDS instance. The EC2 and RDS instance. So this serves the purpose. This is my final answer. For those of you who don't know code pipeline, it is a continuous automated delivery pipeline for fast and reliable updates. Suppose you are moving your code from development to test, from test to production. Nowadays, we don't do that manually. We set up code pipelines, and whatever versions we want to merge, we can create branches of code and we can merge whenever is required, so that two teams can develop their pieces themselves and integrate it later. And it also helps in understanding which version of code is there in test boxes, which version is there in production boxes, and so on. This is just as an information in case you don't know code pipeline. We will lock this answer and let's move forward. So this is the next question. Please focus on the concept explained here, please. See, basically this question is asking that you want to create AMIs. Simple. Your new code will come and then you have to convert it to a AMI. So new code comes and you have to convert it into AMI. Now the thing is, if you see the options suggest that you have to choose between a type of a EC2 instance. Either you use bidding spot instances, or you purchase a light utilization reserved instance, or you do it with your CI instance, and so on. So when you're trying to give a solution, you will have to differ your solution based on this. Okay, so let's go with the first one, and the first one looks correct to me. What it's saying is, you bid a spot instance asking for a higher price. As soon as new commit comes in, like, you know, the new code comes in, you get the new code, a new commit, a new code. See, whenever a new code comes, that is called new commit. In terms of code pipeline or continuous integration, it is called new commit. Once it comes in, you will have a spot instance available. Now you will configure. See, what is a spot instance? It is a EC2 instance. Once you get the EC2 instance, you put all your code there. Okay, which code? This new code. This new code, you will put it on an EC2 instance. This is your EC2 instance, and from there you will convert it to a AMI and publish the AMI. So this EC2 you are acquiring on spot basis, on a bidding basis. Will it work? See, you should not acquire spot instances if you have critical workloads and you cannot afford an abort in between. Does the question say that this is a critical requirement? No, they are just worried about cost. They are just saying, give me the most inexpensive solution. Inexpensive. So for me, this solution would work. Okay, but let us look at spot instance first. See, spot instances, it is far lesser price wise, it is far less costly than on-demand instance. It is the cheapest option. Okay, almost 70 to 90% saving you can get from this. The thing is, you have to bid for it and then you have to get it. And for bidding, see, there are different versions: capacity pool, spot price, spot instance requests, and so on. Now what this is saying is B. Let's look at B. It's saying that there is a continuous integration. CI means continuous integration. This is continuous integration system. It is saying that let the CI launch a new on-demand EC2 instance and everything would remain the same. That means this instance remains the same, but the only thing is now it is running on-demand, and on-demand is expensive compared to spot instances. And what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to give an inexpensive solution. So does this meet your goal? No, I have a better solution in A. That's why B is wrong for me. Let's look at C. C says you purchase a light utilization reserve instance. And once you purchase, why are you purchasing? So that you can save money on continuous integration machine. It does not say how will the code get pushed, whether you will have an instance or so on. And then it is saying you use these credits whenever you create AMIs on instances. So what is light utilization reserve instance? That means it gives you the lowest upfront payment. You can go with a very less upfront payment, but you will have to sign a deal. You will have to put a 1 year commitment, okay, or a 3 year commitment. You will save 28% if you are making a 1 year commitment. You will save 34% if you are making a 3 year commitment versus on demand. So that means it is more expensive than on demand. We already saw here that on demand is expensive compared to spot instance, and light utilization is even expensive compared to on demand. That's why this is wrong. And the last one says you use CI instance, commits, it receives commits, attach a new EBS to the CI machine, perform all setup on this EBS so that you do not need a new EC2 instance to create the AMI. See, the EBS has to be attached where? To the EC2 instance. It has to be attached to this EC2 instance. EBS comes here. What this is EBS, okay? What this question is, or this option is saying is they will attach EBS to the CI machine. This is wrong, okay? And then it is telling that I will perform the setup and etc. to create the AMIs, but this is wrong. This never will work. A is the right answer. It is the most inexpensive solution. Folks, please hit the subscribe and the like button. It takes a lot of effort to put these analysis. Every attempt is made to make it as accurate as possible. This brings us to the end of this part. We looked at questions which are around these topics. Okay, these ones. Please remember, it is important to focus on the concepts that is getting explained here. This brings us to the end of this part. See you in the next part. But before I log off, please remember to log and check parts 1 to 7 of this playlist for previous questions. All questions are very much relevant for the latest exam and certifications.